Hey, this is Erica Smith, and I'm the creator of RE3 Worship, and I am excited to be back again today. We had a great conversation last night talking about racial unity within our nation. We know that this is a movement, that we can be the change, and we wanted to continue that conversation again tonight because we feel like we only talked about such a small part, and we know that this is going to be an ongoing conversation, that this is something we're going to need to continue to work on, to come together to bring unity throughout all of our brothers and sisters in Christ so we can be the most effective that we can be in God's kingdom. So I want to welcome all of the people back again tonight, James and Andrea and Dante, and we have a new person on the scene. We have Jill. So I would love for Jill to start us out with telling a little bit of something about herself.
Oh gosh. Let's see. I am a wife, mother to two sons who are 16 and 20. I'm a speech language pathologist. I'm a friend. What else, Miss Andrea? You're smiling at me. I do attend Grace Community Church here in Greensboro. That my walk with with organized religion is in a bit of a crisis, shall I say. But I do love Jesus and I'm a believer. So
well, amen to that. He meets us where we are when we enter times, and he will show you what you were looking for. That is the one thing I for sure know. All right, James.
Yes, my name is James Moore, and my resume includes father, grandfather, husband, brother, friend, and most importantly, child of Christ. I'm also an independent filmmaker, and just happy to be a part of the conversation.
Amen. Andrea.
I'm Andrea Moore. I'm the sister of James. So I am a sister and a mother of a wonderful daughter, Lauren, who's in her 20s. I am a former speech pathologist. I think once a speech pathologist, always a speech pathologist, though. And I'm a serving member of Purpose House Church and a beloved child of Christ.
Amen. Dante.
Hey, I'm Dante Williams, and I'm a father of two wonderful teenagers. So y'all pray for me.
God bless you.
Yes, Lord.
And have a beautiful wife of 19 years, and just very thankful to be here tonight to be a part of this discussion again.
Yes, and we're thankful that you are here. So I know one of the things that I wanted to dive into today is talking about all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter. And I know personally on my Facebook, I have friends of every color who are maybe saying one thing and have an argument of why they should say that one thing, and then an arguing side on the other of why they should say the other thing. And what I am seeing that is hurting my heart is I know these people desire unity, and the spirit of offense that's being picked up between this is a problem, because if you desire unity, and that's what we're here for, that's what I see going on, I would like a discussion to happen. What needs to be said, what needs to be talked about with this right here, so that we can bring perspective to this ongoing argument on Facebook that I see that is bringing divide.
Well, if I may, I'd like to speak on that subject, because when you brought it up last night, Erica, I mean, everybody was almost jumping out of their seats wanting to, address it, knowing what we know. I'd like to share with you, my wife Donna and I recently went to an event that we had in downtown Norfolk, Virginia, where it was basically a Christian church march for racial unity. Mm-hmm. And we picked up a really good friend of ours, someone that we've known for years. And this woman is She's the bedrock of the word. She's a real student of the word. And I'm talking about she could teach the class at Harvard. That's how deep she is. And as we were waiting for our transportation to go there, she made the comment of, well, I wouldn't, she pointed to a sign that Donna had put together and said, I would change that to all lives matter. And initially it was disappointing to hear someone so learned in the word and having such a deep understanding of Christ say something like that. And, you know, I gotta admit that, you know, it stung a little bit, and she could tell, because as we were traveling there, she asked me if I was offended. And I didn't want to use the word offended because this person is really dear to me. And I said, no, but you kind of show me how much work there is to do. If somebody like you don't get it, then that shows me how much work there is to do. But the silver lining in this whole cloud situation is that we get the opportunity to explain and to sit down and start that conversation. It's a great conversation starter. And I explained to her that it's not an either or situation. The reason why we, as far as the African American community, feel like we have to bring the phrase Black Lives Matter out there is because it seems like a lot of America has forgotten that. They've forgotten that Black Lives Matter. And granted, there are a lot of other problems that we have to address. I'm not belittling anything else that's going wrong in our world: homeless, poverty, wage discrimination against women. There's a whole lot of things out there we need to fix. Yeah. But when you talk about this one issue on race relations, we have to shout out Black Lives Matter, because in a lot of instances, we see that American society has forgotten that. And that's the reason why we're doing this. And I think once I explained that to my friend, that she got an understanding of it. She didn't move on her position because she knows she's not wrong. She knows it's scriptural that, you know, God does not play favorites and all that sort of thing. But I think she got a glimmer of understanding as to our motivation of saying that phrase.
Right. And I'm going to ask a personal question, because I think that this would help give some insight based on what I feel like the Lord was saying to me. Has there been a time in your life where you felt like your life didn't matter because you were Black? Has there been ever something in your life that spoke that to you that makes you feel like at this time you need to say that because of a treatment, of an example, of a situation, of an experience?
Well, one instance that comes immediately to mind is when I was in high school, and I was fortunate enough and worked hard enough to attend governor's school. And I don't know if someone's not familiar with governor's school. They take a bunch of high school kids and they send them off to a college for the summer and give them some special instruction to be able to expand their minds intellectually. And so I was in the dorm with a number of other residents at the governor's school, and I was the only Black participant there. And I'm generally an introvert anyway, you know, shy and don't have much to say and that sort of thing starting out. And especially in those times, because, you know, everybody who has gone through high school knows about being self-conscious and having self-esteem issues. And we were talking about, we just got a bunch of us guys in the dorm were having a discussion about, you know, how we got there and, you know, talking about SAT scores and that sort of thing. And there's always a leader in the group. Whenever you have a social situation, you have more than 3 people in the room, there's going to be some person that takes the lead. And the person that took the lead in our group, he made a comment about me, basically saying, well, you know, you automatically get, you know, a couple of 100 points just because you're Black. Wow. And he basically said that, you know, I really didn't belong there because, you know, I was graded on a curve, so to speak, as far as SAT score or any other scholastic endeavor, because, you know, everybody's trying to give me a leg up because of the color of my skin. And that really hurt because, I mean, I had no friends in the room at the time. We're just getting to know each other. And this guy automatically decided that because I'm Black that, you know, I've been I've had things handed to me. There's
Yeah.
such thing as Black privilege
Yeah.
when it comes to an intellectual pursuit, and that stuck with me for a while, you know, and I kind of used it as fuel from that point to kind of, you know, prove myself in all situations, and that might be the silver lining in that. But if the time machine was working, if the flux capacitor was working, I would go back and maybe try to dodge that and try to do without that pain. But, you know, that's part of what makes us who we are.
Yes.
So just to answer your question, that's one of the examples where I felt like I was being passed over or seen as less than I should be just because of the color of my skin.
Right. Anybody else have any personal experience with that?
One time I have been told, you know, mention kind of directly, well, yeah, you know, you'll get a promotion because you are, you know, Black, and they pretty much affirmative action, you know, you have a quota to meet or so forth, you know. And I got offended, and I'm like, you know what? It could be the BS that I have in industrial technology. It could be my master's I have in technology systems.
Right.
And it could be because I'm Black, you know, but I would like to think that I done something to get where I'm at, you know,
Yeah.
and not because the color of my skin. I mean, and I'm human. It rubbed me the wrong way, and you know, and I don't think the person from, I don't think the person when he said it, I don't think he meant it like, you know, in trying to offend me, you know, just more so just saying it just to be saying it, you know. I'm just like, oh well, you know, everybody know it, and you know, and I'm like, no, it doesn't really. Anything that I get, you know, I try to work hard for it. And like James said, you know, I mean, you it's like you make it a point to prove a point that, you know, I'm here because I busted my butt to get here, you know, and so
Right.
forth. So
You worked hard, and you felt like you was being would be acknowledged for the fact that you worked hard, and then somebody comes in and just takes that away.
yeah.
I know when I continued to see this argument, and I was, you know, for the first couple of weeks, I cried a lot, I prayed a lot. I was like, Lord, I just did not realize that it was this terrible. I mean, I just really didn't. With the craziness going on, it was like it blew up, and it was like all over the place on my Facebook, and then people are arguing about this, and I was like, Lord, what is it? Like, it's the spirit of offense is so strong. I don't know what to do with it. And what he told me was that racism is like a disease. He says it is a disease in the body of Christ. And he said, and both of my in-laws passed away, both of them of sicknesses. And Dante, you actually know that very well. And so when they were sick, people would call us and ask, could they come over? What could they do? Can I bring you something? And he said, when there is something like this going on, I expect my people to go out. He said, there is pain within my Black children because of what is going on right now. And because of that, they need to know that their life matters, because they have faced things in their life that they need to know that their brothers and sisters can come around them and agree with them that their life matters. And when I saw that, and I knew when I felt that, I was like, that is exactly what needs to be happening. But if somebody wants to argue that one is right and one is wrong, which is what is happening, then they're missing the point and the opportunity to love your brothers and sisters that are different from you. You know, yes. Go ahead.
I didn't know. Go ahead, Erica. I'm sorry.
You can say that, you can say both, but you don't have to try to point one of them down and elevate the other. When somebody needs that love, you come alongside them and love them, and you don't have to say, but what about this over here? And so I would love to see that spirit of offense, just the perspective opened, and then the spirit of offense just dropped, especially within the community of Jesus, because he's about love and he's about meeting the need. And what would you?
I thought Jill was going to say something, but before we move away from the topic about the lives mattering, I just wanted to share a quick experience. Mm-hmm. And I think it's in line with what Danta said and what James said. It's more like an overlooking of any effort, personal ability that you could possibly have it, that you could possibly have an endeavor or a goal, and to pursue it and to meet it and be successful in that you have the capability and the capacity to do so. I think I shared this with Jill. I was in graduate school, and I was among people that were in the same degree program as me. And one of the people that I'd been in a graduate school with since we were freshmen in undergrad turned to me and said, "This must be hard for you to be a speech pathologist because you'll have to speak, kind of clearly," was her implication.
And no, her implication was speak proper. That was her implication.
I'm sitting here so lost. Oh my goodness, because my mind wouldn't even go there.
That's what I'm saying. Because that's what speech pathologists do. We teach other people how to speak. Not to mention that she had a super heavy Southern accent. Mm-hmm. So she said this to me, and it's almost, it's ironic. It's, should be part of a sitcom scene. And I wasn't fully into the Holy Ghost like I am now, but I believe that there were some angels on special assignment to stand between me and that person. And all I could say was, I don't have to work any harder than you do. But her comment to her was benign. Mm-hmm. There was nothing other than ignorance that it was about. She wasn't saying it to be purposefully mean. She wasn't saying it to discourage me. She just thought it was a fact. Mm-hmm. And I think, sometimes it's not just offense. It's what, there are facts and then there's truth. Mm-hmm. And if the concept of to get a master's in chemistry or engineering or speech pathology is beyond the effort that a person of color can do, then you walk around thinking that's true. And it's a special occasion when someone gets to governor's school, or someone gets picked for a promotion, or someone is successful in a program where, there aren't a lot of there are a lot more African-American speech pathologists, but, they're not, in comparison, there are fewer. Mm-hmm. So it's just, people's truth, sometimes people's truth, what they believe overrides every fact in the room. Mm-hmm. James could have come in with all of his scores, every grade he had, and it wouldn't have meant anything to that person who was taking over the lead in the room, because he was already believing something else about James was true.
Mm. Wow. Jill, I know you were going to say something a minute ago. I would like to.
And I think I appreciate all of what you all are sharing, because really what you're sharing is you've had your life matters and it's of equal value. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have to work twice as hard to get the same accolades, but you do, right? Because you're seen as the special one, because people, to your point, Andrea, don't think it's possible, or that it frustrates me. And I will just, full disclosure, my husband is Black, my sons are biracial. And so I have no idea what it's like to be Black in America. I have a little unique window into it, but I don't know what it's like to walk through the world like Dante, Andrea, or James. So I think what frustrates me about the people retorting all lives matter to Black Lives Matter is that Black lives can't matter. All lives can't matter till Black lives matter. So they want to say all lives matter, but until Black lives matter, that statement can't be true. And that's what frustrates me when people want to come back with that. And I've really tried to search and try to figure out why people get so offended. Well, let's just say white people, why white people get so offended by Black Lives Matter. And I think it's this sort of zero-sum game that they feel like if I say that your life, if Black lives matter, then that means that white lives don't matter as much. Or that's not the way it works. That it's not if one gets something, the other doesn't. It's that we can all rise together and elevate together. And it's not a zero-sum game where there's only so much to share. We can all elevate together. And again, all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. It's not hard. It's not a hard concept. I don't understand what the issue is or why there's even offense taken.
Dante, was you going to say something?
Yeah, I do. Okay, and just by a show of hands, how many of us on here know about Black Lives Matter movement and Black Lives Matter, other than what we hear on social media and so forth, but actually went and looked at the history and the founding and so forth?
Probably not the history now.
A little bit, not the history.
And like I said, I'm just like I made the statement last night, why you getting your understanding. And so I'm like, I've been trying to get a little bit understanding of it and so forth. And like James said, when him and his wife and his friend was on the way, and the phrase Black Lives Matter had it printed, correct? Right, the phrase was on there. That phrase, that's what we're chanting. That's what we believe. But I'm thinking society is getting the phrase mixed up with the actual movement and the groups, the different groups.
There's an organization, I think.
Yes, the organization, and like I said, and the organization is based upon, nonviolent and so forth, and doing different things. But social media has pretty much put them as a hate group. And because they're saying Black Lives Matter, then we're saying, well, you know what, Black lives does matter because, we have had a lot of killing of Black people, excessive force of Black people, where, you don't see that as much with white people. So we are saying Black Lives Matter. And they're getting, putting it in there, oh, well, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter because, because they're, saying, okay, well, we have this group who's saying this and and believe this and this and this, and what they have, the media, social media, and pretty much has pretty much told us what this group is, and pretty much this group is a hate group, for the most part. Have you, with your take on it? I mean, I have friends of both spectrum, but a lot I've seen, Black Lives Matter movement is a hate group. That's what a lot of people are saying.
You're saying that's what social media portrays them as.
That is what social media, is. I have seen different comments and statements of that. edging towards that, that, oh, well, all lives matter, not just Black lives, and again, like I said, they're getting the phrase and the perception that it has been painted of Black Lives Matter movement, it's getting distorted for the most part. Does that make sense? I mean, do y'all understand what I'm saying?
It makes perfect sense that social media would distort something to something completely from the original intent.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because I mean, I'm sure we could have a whole separate panel about the good and the evils of social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Dante, it's like you want to express yourself, and you're right, we have to inform ourselves about what it actually means when we say that. But we can't control what kind of social media diet they have.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because I think I have a good balance of racial diversity in my friend group on Facebook, but I have some that have been completely quiet from the beginning to now. And then I have some that are posting and reposting certain things. So I think also on certain pages, things get skewed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's some things that I've seen posted from African American friends of mine that I'm like, that's too one-sided.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Somewhat racist for the most part.
Yeah. And so even though it needs to be said, I think, someone might need to repost, this is what the group is actually about. It's not an attack against white lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's a statement, like Jill said, all lives can't matter if Black lives don't matter.
Everybody knows that white lives matter. Like it's been that way. So there needs to be no argument there. And I think the bottom line is, I'm just going to, and I will speak for myself, white people don't want to get uncomfortable. And a lot of this discussion makes a lot of people uncomfortable, because then we have to admit some things that have been wrong towards the Black community. And it doesn't mean people are like, well, I shouldn't have to apologize. I hear all kinds of stuff. I shouldn't have to apologize for being white. And I said, I don't think anybody's asking you to apologize for being white. Again, things get skewed so dramatically that I think the bottom line is, how can we empathize and show compassion and stand together, especially in the Christian community? And this is, Erica, where I have struggled with organized religion. And Andrea knows my favorite phrase is people use God as a weapon. And I can't get with that. I can't. And that really turns me off. And in the name of Christianity, I've seen a lot of wrong things done and said to people. And so that's where I struggle with that piece of it. I think that, and we also have to quit making this a binary argument of it can only be one or the other. So it can only be Black Lives Matter or all lives matter. It can only be this or that. Two things can be true at the same time. You can say that Derek, what's his face, I'm not even going to say his last name, knelt on George Floyd's neck and murdered him. And you can also say that not all police are bad. Two things can be true at the same time. He was a terrible cop who murdered someone, and not all cops are terrible.
Right.
But people want to get in their corners and sit there and dig their heels in. And that's where I get frustrated. Social media, sometimes I've got to step away because I feel my blood pressure rising. And I'm like, okay, it's time to put Facebook down.
And I think I felt the same way, when all this happened, and I had a lot of my Black friends that was posting Black Lives Matter, and I'm posting on there, a bunch of hearts, I love you. That it never dawned on me to say anything. There was nothing that needed to be said.
Correct.
There was nothing. I needed to
Except
say
I'm with you. I hear you. I
Yeah.
see you.
Yes.
That's all that needs to be said.
Yes, I love you. I stand for you. You know, if you need me, I am there. And so when this argument that came up, that it was like the fact that Black Lives Matter needed a retaliation statement
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't understand this, guys. Like, where is this even coming from? And so I just, you know, it didn't resonate with me. I couldn't understand what was going on, and I'm hoping and praying that anybody that's listening to us, and if you don't understand what we're talking about, you have a genuine question, like you have a genuine point of view, please post it in the comments, send us a personal message. I'm sure any one of us would be glad to get back with you. And if you want to send it to James or to Jill or to Andrew or to Dante or to me, it does not matter. We would be glad to sit down with you and answer a question for you if you truly have a genuine question and you want to gain knowledge and perspective. This is the entire reason why we are here right now.
Yeah.
And so I kept going back to also, Jill, what you said is like, you know, why is there offense? You know, in Psalms, the Lord tells us to search and know our heart. You know, we tell God to search and know our heart. We need to know what's in our heart, but not just know what's in our heart, but know why it's there. Like some of the ignorant questions that's asked, or the statement that's been said about, you know, James, you know, you were in the governor's place because you get a couple 100-point grade curve, and Dante, you know, a promotion is going to be easy for you. That's out of the mouth speaks the abundance of the heart. So that come out of mouths because it's in the heart. Now, why is it there? Is it been placed there because this is what you've heard? So you automatically just took it and you ran with it? But we can't do that. That's surface level. We have to know why we think what we're thinking. And so we have to go deeper than that, because I think if we think about the things that we really think about, then there's a reason why we allow them to stay. There's a reason. So we need to get into that so we can start uprooting some of the things that's not true, because it is some of those things that cause hurt and pain. And if somebody grows up saying those things and then they have children teaching them to say those things, then it just continues on. And then it's the next generation that hears this, and the next generation that's dealing with the same things that you guys have had to deal with, that you're not going to be able to accomplish those things on your own by hard work and effort.
Well, you know, to speak to some of what you said, Erica, of how that sort of mentality, how that sort of spirit gets in somebody's heart. I mean, there's a number of reasons why, but I think something that's really core to us wanting to make some kind of change is because we're not talking about changing law or policy. What we're discussing here is changing people's hearts. Yeah. Or putting them in an environment to allow God to change people's hearts. And the way that's done is it's up to the individual. I think that people believe what they believe just because of what they might have got it passed down from their parents, or they just in the social group that they just go along with it. People are basically lazy. People are basically lazy, and they take the easy path because it's really easy to look at one person's skin and say everybody with that skin acts a certain way. That's easy. That's no work involved. If you see somebody of a certain gender and they act a certain way because of that gender, it's easy to just label somebody. But it's hard work to go to people on an individual basis and find out about them, or to find out about what a group is going through, or what a small group is going through. That's work. And if somebody is going to do work, there must be a payoff. If you go to somebody who's got a certain mindset or a certain spirit in their heart saying, oh, all white people are like this, why should I even investigate if it's different than that? Well, you got to tell them that, well, there's going to be work involved, but there's a payoff that you may understand another human being, and there's benefits in that. beyond your imaginings, and that's what we have to convince some of these lazy people to do, is to do the hard work of trying to learn and understand people that don't look like them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it takes one of your most precious assets, which is your time. But again, the payoff is worth it to gain friends, to gain wisdom, to gain understanding. And then you don't stay the same when you gain those things. You automatically change and you grow and you become a better person for taking the time to do those things. Absolutely.
Well, I just wanted to, James stole my response, so I'm holding him responsible for that. And also, I want to speak to the payoff part, because, of course, people, that's going to take some emotional depth. Mm-hmm. That's going to take some vulnerability, and it's going to take some boldness and courage. And I'm not saying people don't have it, but because James said, you're going to take the path of least resistance for that. I think one other piece is to change your perspective and to ask those questions might be you giving up some perceived or actual power, authority, or control. Now, of course, that's also a hard issue. Mm-hmm. If you're going like this with power and control, or really understanding a human being that's right in front of you. But I think sometimes, and I'm asking Erica and Jill, I think sometimes it's that you're risking your status, even if it's in your family. You're risking your status, or how you're perceived or seen, your reputation, if you decide to do the hard work or make the investment in thinking differently or approaching somebody in a new way that's different from you. Some people might see that there's too much risk involved in changing that now. So they might as well think like everybody else, or the majority of people that are around them. I'm just guessing. You guys, you guys.
No, I mean, I married a Black man, Andrea. That's right. The biggest risk in my family. My father, it was difficult, and it was difficult for 6 years. But it took relationship, and it took forgiveness, and it took grace. And grace on my part, grace on my husband's part. So it does, to James's point, it really, to do that work, yeah, most people are lazy because it is hard work. And it's hard work to dig in, especially when it's hard, when it's difficult, when it's uncomfortable. But the only way to make progress is to build relationship. The only way to change hearts is through relationship. And so for my dad in particular, he came around, but it took some time, but he came around. And it was me being persistent. And it was because of our established relationship that he came, I was able to hang in there. He was able to hang in there. I'm not going to, old habits die hard. And he was able to change his heart. And I was thankful for that. Well, God changed his heart, let's be honest. Because if you would have told me that my dad's heart would change, I would have called you crazy. But all that to say, it does take time and work and relationship in order to change hearts. And it is a risk, Andrea, to your point, that you can go through pain, you can go through being shunned, you can go through losing people that you thought loved you. I mean, all of those things are a risk. I don't see it as big of a risk, I guess, when we're talking about just loving brothers and sisters. I'm not talking about marrying somebody outside of your race, just to be friends with someone. I don't see that as a big risk. But that's me. And I'm also not a person that's motivated by power. So I think I can't relate to people that are concerned about losing power if the Black community gains power. I'm using that as air quotes because right. I'm not motivated by that. So I don't understand it.
And I'm very strong in my opinions once I decide something. So, and I'm very vocal in my opinions once I decide something. So for me, you know, when I had brothers and sisters that were of different color, it didn't matter to me. I loved them for who they were. And I've always looked at people for who they were. I saw the actions that they did. I saw how they treated other people. And that's what drew me to people, was seeing how they interacted with and, you know, I want to be friends with that person, or that, you know, somebody who makes people laugh. And so, you know, if you were my friend, that was it. Like, and I didn't care about what anybody else had to say. I would say, speaking just on interracial type relationships, I think there's a fear of a change in culture when there is when there's an interracial relationship. I know that exists. I've heard conversations that's one of the fears. It's like, well, what happens when this happens, you know? And I'm sure, Jill, you may have experienced some of that, maybe with your dad. And so I think that would be, as far as relationships beyond friends and stuff like that, I think that is a big motivator, is the fear. Mm-hmm. But again, that comes down to, you saw a skin color and you judged what was going to happen based on that, or you feared what was going to happen based on that,
right,
without ever sitting down and getting to know that person and seeing truly what that person was going to bring to the table. It was this wall built up automatically that was just thrown up, that something different was going to happen in your life, something was going to change, you wasn't going to like it, and it's not giving the person a fair chance to be who they are. So
thank you for answering that. I appreciate that, Jill and Erica.
Yes. So beyond this, is there anything that's been on anybody's heart of what we can do, continue to be doing, to bring healing and unity with one another in churches, out on the streets? You know, I've seen one idea was, you know, just to ask complete strangers questions. I don't know I don't know how comfortable I am asking complete strangers questions, and I'm pretty comfortable. But, you know, I've learned that I can ask people that I know, and even if it's awkward, or it feels heavy, that what I have learned in that process, doing the work, as Jane said, doing the work to find that stuff out, has changed my perspective. And I believe that's a huge thing. But is there anything else that we can be doing? I know that's probably a heavy question. I don't know how to go beyond what we're doing now.
I think part of it, not necessarily talking to strangers, but really pay attention when you're interacting with people. I think sometimes there are open doors that we don't pay attention to. Yeah. You know, last night we talked about some cues that sometimes you get as a Black person when you're interacting with somebody at a that's of a different race. And you know, I'm thinking of an instance when I was on a walk, and I literally think the older adults that were coming, I was coming one way and they were coming opposite toward me. I think they were literally afraid. And I don't think it was a COVID thing because nobody had a mask, but the protest had happened locally and everything. And I think it shifted a little bit to another blanket snap judgment that every Black person I see is going to be mad and angry right now because they protested. They're not going to be, this person that's walking toward me on her walk is not going to be friendly. And one couple stopped walking and moved way over, like almost a shrub dive. And then another couple waited until I walked all the way by. And I'm thinking it would have been faster if you just kept walking, and it would have been quicker.
It was more awkward what you chose to do.
Right. But the thing is, I could sense that they were uncomfortable. I wasn't, but I could tell that they were like, what do we do? And so I just said, good morning, when I walked by and smiled at them. But I think, you know, that could have been an opportunity. I don't know, maybe smiling and saying hello helped, you know, take that down a notch for them. But I think they had already made a decision because of the climate, what they thought the climate was, because of the protests that happened and the curfews and all of that, that if they see a Black person, they might just automatically be mad at them, you know, and already be offended just seeing them, you know. Yeah. So I think if we just really pay attention to if an open door is there, I've had, you know, and I've had people say things or even type things in comments that were kind of hinty toward wanting to have a conversation. They would kind of hint, or I really need to, like, you know, this is crazy. We should really talk about what's happening. And if there's an invitation, I think I need to follow through with, you know, following up on that and saying, you know, do you still want to talk about what's going on? Now, I can only represent me. I can only speak for myself. Like I tell some people, I don't have a sash and a tiara saying I'm representing every Black person there ever was and ever will be. I'm only going to represent Andrea. So, but I'll be happy to make that real and tangible and not just a stereotype or a caricature. Right. And make it real by talking to an actual person with feelings and a life. Yeah. You know, and it makes it more real. So that's going to be my intention, and educating myself too. Yes.
Yes.
And that's a good thing. And you just, what you just said made me think about a couple of things as far as myself. Yeah, and I'm in full agreement with you, Erica, as far as, you know, not being sure as far as talking to a total stranger, how effective that's going to be. Because, you know, we see, Donna and I, we live at Virginia Beach, and there's a boardwalk there, and God bless them, there's people out there that stand on top of a milk crate saying the you know, the Lord is coming, the end of the world is nigh, and, you know, have you heard about Jesus? And just talking to anybody that comes by. God bless them if they feel comfortable with that. But I do truly feel like we have to be effective in what we do, and to do it prayerfully. If God told that person to stand on the milk crate, you know, you go with God, okay? But God has yet to tell me to stand on the milk crate and yell at strangers. So, but he does instruct me on the relationships I do have and the people I can affect.
Yeah.
And people I can build respect with, you know, to be able to encourage, and like, you know, like my dear sister said, to pay attention and look for those opportunities, because they can be subtle, but they are there, you know. That we have little openings that I think that we maybe pass by every day, you know, that, you know, it's on the white side, Black side, people of color side, whatever. And that we, instead of letting those times pass by, to take a full opportunity, take advantage of it. Yes. But the thing that really struck home is what you said at the end, Andrew, working on yourself, because you know, before the pandemic, you know, I would go downtown to work every day and go to a parking garage and take the elevator down from where I parked, you know, my truck. And the thing that really scared me, a 6-foot huge Black man in a parking garage, is if there's a little frail white woman that goes in the elevator ahead of me and she's holding I'll say, no, I'll just take the stairs at the next one, because I don't want to get myself in a tough position. You know what I'm saying? And it could be totally unfounded. It's not fair to her. It's not fair to anybody else, but we're alone in the parking garage. And I just don't want anybody screaming anything, you know, of something that I'm not doing. And that is born out of fear. You know, that, you know, I was talking last time about that nice leather coat that you get used to, the whole fear thing. Well, I'm not going to get in the elevator alone with a pretty little white person, except for my wife. But 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 maybe I should look that over. Maybe that's a barrier. Maybe you know, I plan on speaking in my quiet time with the Lord on my attitude with that, because for me up until now it's a policy. Oh, don't be alone in the parking garage with, you know, any, you know, white women. That's just, you know, you want to avoid that bullet. But maybe it's like one of those missed opportunities there, you know. Not
Wow.
anything big deal, but, you know, maybe that's the nicest person in the world, you know, that I'd be in the elevator with. I don't know. I got to think on it and I got to pray on it.
Yeah.
But now you've given me something to think about.
Yeah.
And it's being led by the Holy Spirit in that, you know, instead of just having that direct wall, you know, pray real quick in that moment, you know, Lord, what are you leading me to do? And he'll, you know, when he leads me to talk to somebody, you know, even when I'm nervous about it, because if it's a person I don't know, there's always a reason. And I'm always so thankful that I followed through with listening to that. But I've also just seen people and was like, get away. And it didn't matter who they were. It could have been another girl, you know, but I just felt like I needed to just move on. And so, you know, just listening to the Lord in that.
Dante, you've been quiet.
Yeah.
Taking it all in. But with me, like James said, you know, I'm gonna continue to try to reach out to the people that I feel like I can reach out and make a difference. And starting, I keep on bringing back to social media, starting with my social media page. You know, I make it a point try to be positive, no matter what's going on in the world. I make it a point to try to point out, you know, God is still in control. God is, and from just by that, someone had made mention to me, you know, I see your post and I see, you know, I thank you for, you know, that positive attitude, that positive statement, that positive, you know, and it was from a person I really wasn't expecting that from, you know. So I'm like, it's reaching. It's actually it's you know, it has an impact. And like, and this was a white person, you know. So I'm like, I can continue. I can. And one time last week, I really felt like, okay, you know, what am I doing for the cause, and you know, and how can I do more for the cause, you know, and I sat down, and I was talking to my dad, and I said, you know what, I'm like, I'm a black man every day. I deal with this every day. I don't feel like I need to go out and shout from the rooftops, you know, hey, my life matter, because I know my life and my son's life matter. But what can I do? I feel like what can I do different? What can I do? I want to do more. And then, you know, and as I got finished talking with him, you know, then the Holy Spirit, as we was talking, he's like, I said, well, Daddy, I'm like, you know, right now, I'm a Boy Scout leader. I teach them boys how to be good citizens and try to instill in them, you know, and to be good people in the community, and that, you know, I teach Sunday school. I try to instill in the young people, you know, how to have a relationship with Christ and how to treat everybody the same, and so forth, you know. So I'm like, well, I might not be, it may not be political per se, but I'm like, I'm sowing seed that's gonna actually change the world, because
Yeah.
these kids are our future. These are the ones who can go out here and treat their brothers and sisters in a certain way and say, hey, you know what? If they do something out of kindness and they're not expecting that, well, thank you for doing that. And then in return, that other person gonna do something, you know, kind, and that. So I may not be out on the street corner yelling and doing it, but I feel like what I'm doing is Christ led, and I'm always open for more. Just like with Andrea, when she reached out to me and she said, "Would you mind being on?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure," because I learned at probably a few years back. Anytime somebody asks me to do something for Christ, I'm gonna jump on it. If it's for Christ, I'm like, you know what, I can't say no. I mean, that's just my attitude that I have at this point in time in my life.
That's right.
And so as far as, and I was thinking as everyone was talking, RE worship, RE3 worship, it's a ministry, and you're the founder, and I look at you and the others who you come in contact. We are RE3 worship. RE3 worship can have a community get together. So one day, when we get back to a new, or I mean, we could have it on a Saturday. So Brother James, y'all can come up to. Oh no, better yet, maybe we can come down to Virginia Beach.
Yes, that's what I was thinking the same thing. We go to the beach.
We're all staying at your house, James. No pressure.
Hey, y'all bring sleeping bags. Y'all good. Got room on the living room floor. Come on.
Perfect.
And I have like a RE3 worship, something sponsored, and just more so, hey, come together, just a 2-hour fellowship, have some hot dogs, and just get to know, we know each other I feel like I know you all, but we know each other, but we could even reach out and say, hey, tell a friend, and that could be a community outreach for the most part, because it's gonna reach, this is not gonna, as I just looked on the video we did last night. Yep. I think we have 560 something views. So, you got 560 something people have looked at what we're talking about. Yeah. That's 560 people. That's not a small number. Mm-mm. And I'm that it as they see it, and they'll get I guess more so of, what? These are normal people just like me. I can do this. I can, go out and talk with someone. I can go out, I tell it, it's nothing special about Dante. I just, as y'all can see, I'm not a real big public speaking person. I get nervous and my words get jumbled.
You do a great job.
Same here.
But I'm saying, it's me, in whatever capacity I can serve. I'm gonna stumble. My pastor always says, if you got an ailment, you're gonna drag that ailment on with you. Well, I'm gonna stumble on through this and just just be a part of this wonderful movement that we're doing.
Yeah. And I absolutely love the outreach idea, because we could turn that into a bigger situation where you invite some people, and that could definitely be something we look at for the fall, y'all. Anyway,
Erica, I was going to say too, I think our work is a bit different because, and I'd love to hear from James and Andrea and Dante about, how do you feel about people asking you questions? Because I've been reading a little bit and seeing a little bit of, why does the Black community have to make white people feel better and educate them like we should be educating ourselves? In other words, it's not really your job to educate us or to make us feel better about the situation. We've got to do the work as the white community. It's really, we started it, we got to fix it. In other words, me, Andrew. Go ahead.
Speak on that real quick.
Yes, please, please.
My wife, she talks with me about some of her interactions that she has with Black women that she knows, or has some kind of relationship with, and sometimes, or maybe online or something like that, and she'll get a response back sometimes like, it's not my job to educate you or whatever.
That's what I've seen, yes.
Yeah. And she asked me my opinion on that. And my opinion, and I will say this opinion to the Black woman's face and say, oh, it is your job. Okay. It's your job to do this. If you don't want that job, you might be having a bad day, you might be tired then or whatever, fine, you can put it off. But if you don't want to pick up that job, then do not complain if somebody that's another color treats you wrong, or makes an assumption about you, or says the wrong thing about you. Okay, you can, if you want to give up that job, then you give up complaining about when something goes wrong. It's just like going to vote, in my mind. You know, you don't like the government, whatever, but if you don't vote, then get out my face with that, because you didn't take any action. Okay.
Right.
So in fact, when somebody finally does come to me and ask me a question, maybe I've had a bad day, maybe I'm tired, or maybe I got something else going on, but I feel like, it's like winning the Academy Award or something, that somebody wants to they actually care about my opinion that much. There's a little weight of responsibility that I'm going to willingly take on and say, oh yeah, I'm going to give you the best answer I possibly can, with the full understanding, of course, that I've been voted out of Prince of all Black people, so I can't speak for every single person.
By one vote. You got voted out by one vote. It's just one vote.
Denzel Washington beat me out by one vote. But if you're interested in what I have to say, I'll be happy to give it to you. You have to be happy to give it. We can't ask for change, and then when somebody come up and actually ask for it, for an avenue of it, and we say, no, that's not my job to give you any kind of enlightenment about me. It just gets the pot boiling with me, as you can probably tell.
No, I love it though, because I want to hear both sides of that. Because like I said, that's what I've been reading. And I do appreciate that we have to do different work, because have y'all seen the documentary 13th on Netflix yet? You have got to watch it. It is, and that educated me. I knew bits and pieces about redlining and some other things that have been put in place back in the day, but it lays it out in a way that really, I mean, I wept. It was very powerful, very educational, those are things that we have to do on our own, because let's be honest, the history sometimes that we're being taught, not sometimes, we're not being taught all history. And so, it's up to us to educate ourselves. And I will say, I've had a lot of friends reach out, more than, like, this has never happened before. So we should all be encouraged that conversations are happening that have never happened before. People are reaching out, and probably, like James, I would bet that your wife is probably getting questions from white friends as well, because we're sort of safe. So if they say something real stupid, they didn't say it to a person of color. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so
my wife is on the couch dancing right now because she's listening in. So yeah.
So she's in agreement. Great. Yeah, but we are getting questions, and I actually had somebody send me a message and say, you seem like a safe person to ask this of. And I was like, wow. And I said, listen, just like you said, James, I don't speak, number one, I surely don't speak for the Black community. I can only tell you what I know from my experience, but conversations are happening and people are asking questions and reaching out. But I also don't want to put a burden on you all that you also have to solve it all, because it really is going to take us coming alongside you and fixing it, because we're the ones, not we, but collectively, it started as white oppression. That just is what it is. And I know some people are like, that was 1,000,000 years ago. Why are we still worried about that? And I have now started asking them, why y'all still waving the Confederate flag? If we need to let slavery go and all that, those are the same, then let that flag go. You know what I mean? Like both things can be true. So there's a lot of hypocrisy and double standards too that we have to call out, Erica, even with people. And it's easier to call it out with strangers. It's a lot harder to call it out with friends. because I've had friends say some things that I'm like, ooh, like it raises the hair on the back of my neck.
Mhm.
And then it's trying to figure out, how do I maintain this friendship, but gently correct? Because I never want to be preachy either.
Mhm.
You know, I never, because that's not going to win any hearts, right? I mean, so it's figuring out like, what do I say in that moment? But I have to say something. I think a lot of people want to keep the peace. Like, can't we just all get along? Can't we just, why does everything have to be an argument? Why? But I think we have to start calling some things out.
Mhm. Yeah, some things have to be exposed so that they can
Mhm.
be dealt with. If you keep shoving stuff under a rug, it's eventually going to get so big you're not going to be able to walk over top of it. And
Yeah.
and it's just not possible to do that. And I really think we're at that point now where it's like, okay, this really truly needs to be dealt with so that we see change as a whole. And I know for me, and I said it last night, I'll say it again tonight, it is people sharing their personal experiences and their thoughts and their feelings and what has happened that has helped me realize what a problem it is still going on locally within my community, which is why I felt such a burden to do something other than just teach my kids, you know, like what we talk about in our own home and how we're to love other people and those type things. It was like the being silent is shoving it under the rug.
Yes.
You know, and it doesn't excuse
Yes.
me just because I'm not part of the problem. And because I'm not part of the problem, that actually gives me a platform to be part of the solution. And so to be part of the solution, then I had to speak out. I had to do something. There's something needed to be done. And I had shared with Andrea, you know, I was in the beginning, I was very like, oh no, what if I say something wrong? What if somebody doesn't like what I say?
Oh, I'm already thinking that when this plays back, somebody's going to say something about what I've said. Like, it's already spinning through my brain.
Somebody is going to disagree with something just because that's just the nature of the beast. But if I continue to be quiet because I don't know what to say or I'm fearful of saying the wrong thing, then my silence contributes to the problem.
That's
and
right.
I know that I couldn't do that anymore. You know, I could not do that. And I wanted to, and then right after, when I was talking to the Lord about all this, I saw that blurb from Stephen Furtick that was talking about, I can't be worried about saying the wrong thing. I have to say something. And it was like the Lord just, did you see that, Erica?
Right there.
I mean, it was right in my face. And I was like, okay, here we go. This is what we're going to do. And it is, our work is different. And I have felt when I have asked somebody questions, they have graciously told me, you know, their personal experiences. And when you come with a heart open, you're gonna. I mean, I cry with people. To put myself in their shoes and have compassion and empathize because I haven't been there, but I'm a different person because of it. With everything I hear, I am a different person because of it. And we are supposed to grow and mature in our love in Christ, and taking the time to get to know our brothers and sisters who look different from us, who experience different things. This is part of it. This is part of how we can love one another better. And so that's what I'm hoping that people really get from listening.
I just want to say something really quick about receiving questions and respond to that. I feel like even outside of differences of race, as a human being, I want people to know me and not make assumptions about me. So I prefer that you ask me a question instead of filling in your own blank.
Yes.
Now, of course, race adds another thing to that because there are probably some other things built up. But usually when I've been in conversation with my friends that are of other races, I'm trying to be clear that I'm only representing myself. because my experience doesn't speak for everybody else's experience. So don't talk to me and think you know every Black woman's experience.
Yeah.
Now shoot, whatever you want to ask me. Because like James said, it's almost a gift to be asked the question with someone that really wants to hear an answer and not just the answer that will make them comfortable. And I think that we have a sphere of influence. You have some influence in the relationships that you have, and trust relationships that you have, or relationships where people feel safe. And I consider it my responsibility to just, in general, you have to show people how to treat you. They can't read your mind, and sometimes you have to have a conversation for them to understand who you are just as a human being, period. And then on top of that, anything that might be a cultural difference. So if somebody comes to me and says, I have a question, like Jill will just text me, it's like, look, I gotta run something by you. We gotta talk about something. I'm like, this is gonna be an awesome conversation because Jill and I already know and trust each other. And she knows me and I know her. And there's gonna be respect both ways. And there's already a desire to understand each other. And I think Jill and I have had what some other people might think are really awkward conversations just about race, even from me looking at a white person from a white person standpoint, and vice versa. And we've made it through those conversations. And I think it made us closer to each other. And so I think that if somebody asks you a question, you know, and you know it's coming from the right motive, answer the question.
Yes, coming from the
Because
right.
that's offense.
And you can tell when it's not coming from the right motive. I mean, that's all of us can read, can tell that. Yeah.
Right.
Well, does anybody feel like did we cover everything that we wanted to talk about? I'm hoping that we might get some responses, people asking some questions.
Yeah, that was a good,
I would welcome questions anytime. The only other thing that I did want to talk about was this concept that I think very well-meaning people, Andrea, you and I've talked about this. About being colorblind. You know, I don't teach my kids to see race. We're colorblind. We love all people the same.
That's good.
And I really just I had an epiphany about it because I thought, you know, and this is after also just seeing, hearing, reading, you know, I thought, and I'm a very, sounds like you are too, Erica. I think all of us here are very empathic people. I mean, because we have a heart for other people and your compassion, and how can we see other people? Like, it's part of your culture. It's part of who you are to be Black. If I say that I don't see that, then I'm saying that I don't see you. And then how can I empathize with your struggle and with what's going on right now and feel heartbroken about it? And I think I even said feel a righteous anger for it. If I don't see you. Like, everybody wants to be seen and heard. And no, just like being white is not the first thing that I lead with. Being Black may not be the first thing that you lead with. It's part of who you are. It's not all that you are. You know, we all have pieces to ourselves, but it is a piece, and it's okay to, in my mind, see that piece, because if you don't see people, then you can't empathize with what they're going through, which is different because I'm not going through the same thing.
Right. That's good.
My thing would be if we were to look at people as just a human being. I mean, just like with all this going on, you know, if we don't see, we don't even have to see color to see the injustice of what just happened. You know, if that would have been a white man and the police officer done that to him, it still would be murder.
Right. Absolutely.
And, but with it being a Black man, and it's have been done often as of late, so if people would treat everyone just as human, you can still, be colorblind, but but you still, you still got to have that human compassion, compassion for human beings. And right now, a lot of people in the nation are not doing that. They're not seeing this people as human. They're seeing that color, saying, and so forth. And just like with my kids, they've been brought up, that they didn't see color. Cause my daughter's best friend, she's white. She done been over my house. I have taken her to church, and my daughter has went over her house, and my son the same way. His best friend is white, and I never at one time when they're gone, when they're with them, I never worried. I'm like, they're gonna take care of my kids just like they take care of their kids, So, and that my kids have never really seen, felt that, okay, well, I'm different because, I'm staying at a white person's home, because they had never, treated them that way. They treated them like a human, like I said, not a Black human, white human, but a human being, and so forth.
I think when Jill and I were kind of hashing that out, I think when people say I'm colorblind, I don't see color, it's not the exact language that it's not saying what they're really saying. Like Dante said, it's I see someone's color and I acknowledge that, but that doesn't determine how I see them as a person.
Right.
And when people, I think when that comes up, it almost comes up as a defense phrase.
That's what thank you, Andrea, for teasing that out. That's what I'm referring to when it's used in a defensive way.
Yeah.
And if that's your defense, if you're using it like that puts it in a different context for interaction with the other person. And I think most people mean well when they say, I don't see color. It doesn't matter to me. But if you're saying it in response to someone bringing up an issue that has everything to do with their color, then you have to have a discussion. I totally have had the experience with Lauren growing up, having sleepovers, and we don't care who it is. It's about the type of person you are, not what color you are. And I've said no to Black ones and no to white ones because what's going to happen in the house. And I think that colorblind phrase gets thrown around in too many contexts, but especially when it's in response, just like when people say all lives matter, when you say Black lives matter. If they say something about their experience uniquely that has to do with their race, and they say, I'm colorblind. That's just like, okay, let's stop talking about it, because it almost puts a stopper in what could grow in that relationship. So I really think sometimes people don't literally mean that they don't see color when it's not said in like a defense mechanism against what someone else has already said. I could say the same thing, but it would have a different impact. I see people, and so I see a person first.
That's the goal.
I have to see a person first. And I usually say to people, I see a person first because I know what it's like to not be seen as a person first.
There you go.
Right. And I think if we did treat people as human beings, then a lot of this other stuff would dissolve. It just truly would. It would dissolve. I know even I see people, even when, looking at addicts, people who are addicted. I see the brokenness when I look at them, and I think about their mama or, what they're going through. But it's that humanizing that person that I'm doing. And it's just about seeing them as a broken person who needs help, not just letting their problem define them. Just like we shouldn't let skin color define a person. You are not just the color. The color of your skin is a part of you. It is a characteristic. It is part of your culture, but you are so much more than that. And that's the way that we truly have to start treating people, is that they are so much more than that.
James,
Yeah,
were you going to say something?
Yeah, well, yeah, I was going to say that I was going to address the whole phrase of colorblindness, that sort of thing, because I run into that. And I must admit that sometimes the jokester comes out in me, and I pick on the people that say that, oh, well, since I have color in my skin, you don't see me, I'm the invisible man, you know. But the reason why I you know, maybe tease my friends that might say something like that is, as a writer, I believe in exactitude in getting your point across with words. And sometimes that means that you have to consider the filter that someone else is using when you speak to them. Okay. Now it's a tough job, and you're not responsible for how everybody takes your words, but you must understand that if you go to a Black person and say, I'm colorblind, you know, just like we already discussed, that might mean that you're not seeing me at all as a human being. And it's something that we have to be mindful of as we have these conversations. For all you people, I'm talking to America now, listen, America, as you have these conversations with people that are a race that's not yours, you have to treat it almost like a diplomatic visit, that you're visiting another country or another planet if you're into sci-fi. And you have to be exact in what you really mean, what you say. Because you'll say I'm colorblind, but that's not what you mean.
Right.
What you really want to mean with the love in your heart is say, hey, I see you as a human being, and I'm not going to make assumptions about your skin color. Because if you have the dark skin color, I know you can listen to the Commodores and Rolling Stones. I think that's an opportunity when somebody says something like that. I take it as an opportunity, especially as a wordsmith, when somebody uses a phrase like that one, or the Black Lives Matter, or, you know, some of my friends are Black and that sort of thing. As a writer, I have to take advantage of those opportunities and, you know, help build a relationship that way.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah, I do too. I love that. That's good. That's good. I'm so glad you brought that up, Jill. Well, I am blessed. I am privileged. I am honored to know all of you and know you now, Jill. I just met James last night, but I consider you all friends for sure.
Yes.
And just listening to what you have shared and shared your heart. And it truly has been a blessing. And I feel like we will continue to grow in this situation. And I feel like if we have an opportunity to meet again to discuss further of things that happen, I definitely want to keep that door open, because I feel like we are got to continue being active in what we're doing in our communities and in keeping this any ground that we gain and what's going on with relationships and growing relationships with our friends. I want us to continue to grow this. And I want, again, like we talked about last night, I want our children to get the fruit of our labor that we're putting in right now, of being the change and seeing the change all the way through. I don't want it just to start moving and then stifle out and another terrible event have to happen to put everybody back into motion. I feel like, we've had enough catalyst, and it's time to just move forward, and it's time to grow and be different and change and get that transformation that we were talking about.
Not lose this momentum, because I do feel like something has shifted.
Yes. I have seen a shift. I feel a shift, and I'm honored to be a part of the shift. I'm so thankful that all of you were on here and that you feel the shift, and we all see the goal in sight, and that we're ready to do what we can do. And so
it was really nice to meet all of you, and thank you so much for including me.
Yes, Jill, absolutely. Absolutely. Andrea, I would love for you to close us out in prayer this evening.
All right. Father, we can't do really anything good without you. So we just offer this, we commit this conversation to you, that it goes where it's supposed to go. Whoever needs to hear it, hears it. Whoever needs to see it, sees it. And that it does what it's intended to do to make a change. So Father, I ask that you bless everyone that participated. And I thank you for RE3 worship, God. I thank you for the seed that was planted and how Erica has grown it, and now the fruit in these conversations. So Father, I ask that you just take this and have your way with it, that it starts conversations, that it brings healing, that it brings education, and that it brings understanding. Also, every one of your children are seen for who you meant for them, how you've meant for them to be seen. We thank you, we give you glory, and we give you honor. In your son, Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you guys for watching. I would love for you again to like, comment, post, reach out, ask questions, share this video, get your own conversation started. We hope and pray that we have inspired you to do what you can do, because I really truly believe with all of my heart that unity is what we are going for, the love of Christ to fill us up and just pour over. And that we are truly better together, because that's why we are here right now at such a time as this. So thank you all, and until next time.